This is it. The Sales Confidence Podcast with Kevin Beales, the CEO and founder of MySalesCoach. I am really excited about this conversation. Kevin and I have known each other for many years. We've developed a very close friendship, which I'm proud to say has evolved over the years. And you've been up to so much since we last spoke. You've exited a business. You've gone back to the drawing board and created a new company. So good to have you with us here today, Kevin.
James, it's great to be back. I'm really excited for the conversation today.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So let's jump straight into it. Just as my kind of initial icebreaker, what are you excited about at the moment? What's top of mind for you?
Well, on a personal level, I go away tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. Got a little bit of time away. On a business level, we're 6 months in. Think things are going well. We're lucky. It's obviously always a journey, always learning, but things are going even better than it said in the plan, which is always a good start. But great. Learning lots of lessons, team growing, and it's. To be honest, it's probably the most exciting stage. Having gone through the journey a couple of times, it's the most exciting stage where you're up against the world, trying to make something happen. You can see the initial shoots of success coming, and I know from past experience this is the most exciting period. This is the most exciting time.
I can tell. I feel like you're re-energized and revitalized after exiting your last business, and obviously we'll go into that in a bit more detail and learn more about what you're doing now with my sales coach. So I look forward to learning about that. In this conversation, we like to understand who you are as an individual, understand the journey that you've been on, and also learn about your business and its core offering in the market. Just on that kind of personal side, just delving into that a little bit, just want to know about you as a person and how you approach things and how you think about things. Just my first question is, what's the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?
I would be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about the working day ahead. I'll jump into my calendar first thing. I check messages, see what's come overnight, possibly start posting something to the team. I guess really just getting prepared and energized for the day. As you know, I'm a family man as well, so there's obviously getting all sorted with the family and the kids and ready for the day. But just getting energized for the day really, and prepared for what's going to come.
Amazing. And you're a serial founder. So, you've built multiple businesses over many years now. Where's the motivation come to be a founder and build businesses? Why have you gone down that route?
So I'm really uncomfortable with the phrase serial founder. I know why people use it. I'm not uncomfortable with that because I don't know, it probably exposes that, like a lot of founders, you kind of have that kind of starter more than finisher mentality, in the fact that the most exciting, as we were talking about before, the most exciting part is starting with a piece of paper and making something happen. Not necessarily the intention to be a serial founder. That's just kind of how things play out. I always wanted to do something myself, or literally from I can remember being 7-8 years old.
Oh, really? That young?
I'm really young. Did lots of entrepreneurial things as a kid. Some that I should have, some that I shouldn't. But learned lots of lessons. I did my first thing after university. I was running a couple of side gigs, as they would say now, at a university, and I decided to do that for 2 or 3 years at that point in time. That didn't work out. I went and got, as my mum told me, a proper job, and it was then another 10 years before I started something again myself. But that was always my plan, at least, although not necessarily quite as easy to convince those around you that was the
was there individuals in your life that you thought, well, I like the look and sound of that, and that's what you thought about carving out that route? Or was it just this inner sense that you should work for yourself and do something for yourself?
It definitely happened at such a young age that I can't pinpoint where I got that from, but it just always seemed so logical. I remember talking as a youngster about, I'm going to hire these really smart people. They're going to run this amazing business for me, and I'm going to make loads of money. And it's not quite as easy as that, but
No.
but that framework is still there. I remember, like, as I say, literally younger than 10 years old, that was my thought. I would tell people that's what I'm going to do when I grow up.
That's great. I love that. We're both, you've created multiple businesses that have been servicing the sales industry. And naturally, the purpose of Sales Confidence is focused on supporting and developing salespeople and sales leaders. When was your first experience of sales? Either, interacting with a salesperson, or, your first experience having to go and sell?
So, if I discount those entrepreneurial experiences where there is definitely lots of sales lessons, and there's definitely the seeds of those sales things and sales skills that come into those conversations. Like many of the people listening, like many of your network, I never intended to go into sales. That wasn't an intention at all. In fact, when I got a proper job, I wasn't really in sales. I kind of went into to marketing. I was working at Adidas actually, and my boss at Adidas said to me, you should be in sales. And I at that time had that stereotype of what a salesperson was, and it wasn't me. And I didn't think that that was the path that I would go down. It was then maybe a few years later after that that I joined a startup in like the first sales role of a startup. And in truth, I was probably more attracted to being in a startup than I was to being in sales at that time. But then, again, like lots of your audience, you kind of realize that it's something that you can do. It's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you enjoy. It's something that you want to learn to do better. And a sales career is born, I guess.
Interesting. What were you selling?
So my first job was, I joined a startup. I was the third employee of a company called MPP. So they sold to everything from football clubs to record companies, micropayments and streaming subscriptions in the very, very early days of the internet. So I was selling, in truth, a vision, and I think that was kind of quite suited to me at that time of selling a vision. I then, a couple of years later, went into what I would probably call my first slightly more structured sales job in a SaaS company, and that was in email marketing. It was very competitive, and in that I learned far more about I was selling a product, but obviously selling a solution to people's problems, but in an industry where there was lots of good solutions to those problems. So I really learned kind of how to make how to be differentiated, I guess, and how to help build a business in a competitive market and competitive environment.
On that, you've had a sales career. You've developed your sales skills. You've been a multiple founder, as we highlighted at the beginning of the conversation. What is it about Kevin that you think makes you successful at selling or building businesses? What are the traits that? And I know you're a very humble man, but I want you to think about what is it about your character or your approach that you think allows you to be successful?
I think one of the things that I was very luckiest with was when I was in that first job at Adidas. I was a buyer, and I think that helped me immeasurably when I went into sales, because I always knew and I was always thinking first of the buyer and the empathy with the buyer, and I guess a buyer first approach. So that definitely helped me. what has helped me, I think the two things that I would say, I was actually asked by the company that acquired us, one of the questions that I was asked before they acquired us was, what was my superpower? And again, I'm not, I'm a fairly humble guy, and I don't like to think of superpowers, but the two things that I would say that have helped me be successful are, one, maybe just seeing things differently. Someone described it to me as being able to see around corners, looking at a problem, looking at an opportunity, and just looking at it differently. I don't know exactly where that comes from, but I recognize that that does happen. And the second is surrounding myself with great people. I think hopefully there is a reason why great people want to work with me, but surrounding myself with great people, building great teams, that is what I described as my superpower when I had to answer that question.
Great. And I can see that from the cultures that you've built and the type of people that you've attracted, and also I think you've enabled a lot of people to develop into further stages of their career. So I think that's something that, if you're advocating for, is attractive for people, knowing that you're going to accelerate and help them raise their game. So you've already mentioned it a few times. There's been this acquisition. So can you just talk us through, what was the last business that you were involved in? How did that play out? And how did that lead to now what you're doing with MySalesCoach?
Yeah, so my last SaaS business was a company called Refract. So I'd been through the SaaS journey once, had an acquisition, but learned lots of lessons, made so many mistakes, literally so many. In truth, when I look back on that first business, it wasn't a great SaaS business, but we had a successful outcome, but took the lessons with me to Refract. As some of your audience might be familiar with, Refract was a sales conversation intelligence platform, capturing calls, conversations, highlighting the moments where revenue is won and lost, and what top performers do differently. And I was really passionate about the problem that we were trying to solve. We started partnering with a sales enablement platform called Allego, an American US-based sales enablement provider that, again, some of your audience will be familiar with. And at first we started partnering. We actually were providing our technology under the hood as a module within their platform. And we had a year, 18 months working together. We were growing very well at that point in time. And we both came to a realization that if there was going to be an opportunity to work together in an acquisition sense, it was now or never, because they were, I'm going to use the word bootstrapped, but bootstrapped to the point of being well on their way to 9 figures of revenue, but a bootstrapped business. That if we kept on growing at that rate, then there probably wouldn't have ever been a great fit. We'd had this great time working together. Really inspirational founder of Allego and the team that they had there, and we just realised that for our customers, for our teams, for us as a management team, what we could achieve together and what we could learn together was greater than the journey if we carried on alone. And so the team unanimously decided that that was the best path for us, for our teams, and for our customers, and that was the right decision to make.
And how did that evolve into now what you're doing with MySalesCoach?
So I'd kind of verbally said that I would do 3 years with Allego, and that was always the intention. Bearing in mind, after my first acquisition, I lasted 6 weeks, right? But fully intended that to be the plan. Got about 18 months in, and there was one pivotal moment where I woke up early one Saturday morning, took my laptop down to the coffee shop and started thinking about what might I do next, which at that moment was like 18 months down the line. And I played around with a few ideas, but I just couldn't get away from one, which really was the problem that we tried to solve at Refact, which was the sales coaching dichotomy that, organizations say it's the most important thing for their managers. Managers, by their own admittance, typically spend 5% of their time coaching, despite the fact that there's so many studies and evidence that coaching has the biggest impact on individuals' growth and ultimately on performance and revenue. That was the problem that we tried to solve at Refact. When I say try to solve, and I kind of feel like we failed in that mission, was that even capturing conversations where revenue is being won and lost, nothing magically happens to coach those moments just by capturing them. Even if you're capturing them, surfacing them, literally putting them on a plate for sales managers and leaders are busy and are busy for a reason and are juggling so many different responsibilities, all of which are more time critical than coaching. Or, every single one is more time critical than coaching. Coaching can always wait till tomorrow. And then you add in the fact that most managers and leaders are given very little support being a great coach, haven't necessarily experienced great coaching themselves. How do you suddenly wake up one day and become a great coach? And then finally, it's really hard actually this doesn't get talked about very much. It's really hard being a great manager and a great coach. They're two competing factions often. As a manager, you are responsible for team KPIs and organizational targets. As a coach, you care about nothing other than the growth of the individual that you're and their goals. And those can be quite competing. So yeah, we kind of, I had this itch that I felt like we failed, and we, like, as an industry, conversation intelligence had pivoted away more in terms of AI and insights and understanding what top performers do differently, and really had pivoted away from the problem that I'd started out to solve, which was sales coaching. That was the problem we started Refact to solve. So I kind of still felt frustrated with that. So that led me to look at how we could solve that problem. I looked at what happened in different industries where sales coaching and being able to remotely sales coach with experts in areas like mental health and well-being were becoming big industries and some big players. And the more I looked into it, the more I kind of looked at, I can't understand why this doesn't exist yet in sales, because everyone knows telling people that sales coaching is a problem never has any pushback. As an industry, I think there is an acknowledgement that it's important, and there is an acknowledgement we don't do enough of it. So I started to become more and more amazed really that no one was doing this already. So I, within a couple of weeks, I think probably of sitting down in that coffee shop, went to my then boss, the founder of Allego, and said, I want to do this, and I want to do it in the right way, but I now have this itch and I really want to do this. And so I stayed a second year and then started MySalesCoach at the start of this year.
Fantastic. And as it stands, what is the offering? So if a sales leader is listening to this conversation, what does MySalesCoach do? What's the offering?
So we provide a subscription to expert matched one-to-one coaches for personal coaching for individuals on their journey. So we've put together a portfolio of the very best coaches for every different role, for SDRs, for AEs, for managers and leaders, RevOps teams, sales engineers, customer success teams, people that have been there, done that, manage those teams, are expert in coaching, but then match each individual to the right coach for them to be able to support them on their personal growth journey, and give them the support, the advice, the tips, the coaching that they need to achieve their potential, but as a subscription service.
Amazing. And how does what's the experience for an individual? So let's say a company signs up to MySalesCoach. then what happens? What's the experience for individuals that get access to MySalesCoach?
So we go through an onboarding process with every individual now. Again, another of the learnings that we have, that to start off with, we kind of try to match based on an organization level of, here will be a great coach for your team based on the organization, the stage you're at, the industry you're in, the goals that you've got as a business. I think one thing we've learned as we've gone along is that actually even each individual within perhaps the same SDR team is very, very different, and what they want from coaching is very, very different, and who would make the right coach for them can be very, very different. So we actually go through an onboarding process with every individual, understand their goals, understand what they want from coaching and how we can help support that, and then provide them with a coach which they can actually choose themselves. We might make a recommendation but offer a couple of alternatives so that they can choose the coach that they believe is right for them for the journey, and then through our platform they can then just book their coaching sessions, and we also do group coaching sessions with people going through the same journey as them as well.
Amazing. And what's the ambition for MySalesCoach? Like, where do you see this evolving?
So what feels really differently for me, and again this comes back to that being uncomfortable with the word like serial founder, is that this feels like my life mission. I've been passionate about the businesses that I've founded, and as I mentioned, Refract really was founded with this problem in mind. But I feel like this is my mission. This is my calling, is sales coaching and this problem. I have also promised that this is the last time I'm going to start a business. So, I'm absolutely committed to that as well. So, and I think as well, if I'm being really honest, it's a privileged position, having been through the journey a couple of times, that, if you go through the journey, certainly for me, when I went through the journey the first time, the attraction of an exit and something that would be, life-changing for you and your family is pretty darn compelling. Now I feel like, I'm in a more privileged position where, we can really grow this to its full potential. So very focused at the moment on the UK and Europe, and then look to get to a certain scale and really start to take it global at that point. So yeah, that's the plan.
Amazing. I'm very excited. I can sense the level of excitement around this opportunity, and I can see it, having spent years now building sales confidence and interacting with hundreds, if not, thousands of salespeople and sales leaders. This is a real gap. I think there's so many tools and systems, but we all know it's actually what happens around the headspace, what's going on between your ears during the day, that impacts your performance and what you can deliver and your well-being. And that really comes from spending time with another individual that can coach you and help crystallize your thinking and help overcome challenges or problems that you're facing. Another tool is not going to do that.
Exactly. I think one of the thesis we started with when we started MySalesCoach was that it would be much easier than any of our previous experiences in both creating opportunities and creating customers. Because, as you say, it's not really difficult to get people excited about, so first of all, recognizing that the problem exists, recognizing that coaching is important and not enough happens within their organization, and that that there is real wins and benefits from doing something about it. We have been really careful, and it has been a very conscious decision that we don't want to be that the promise of of all sales tech tools. And I count Refract in with that we can take your middle performers to be like top performers. We can increase your revenue by from X to Y, all of which are true, but or can be true. But as you say, the solution isn't just a set of tools, and tools don't magically make these things happen. Whereas you're actually coaching and helping people improve their performance and their outcomes through expert coaching is such a a proven solution.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. Just bringing it back to your perspective on sales as an industry, some of the experience that you've had. Just one question I like to ask guests is there a book that's impacted your career, or that is a go-to recommendation for you that you find valuable and have got value from?
So I would say Coaching Salespeople into Sales Champions by a gentleman called Keith Rosen is we have a Bible copy in the office, which I can't tell you how many Post-it notes are sticking out of. That is definitely been a little bit of a go-to book, certainly in terms of certainly in terms of sales coaching anyway. Yeah, that would be my go-to.
Cool. Okay. And with all the insights that Refract gave you into salespeople, and also you've built sales teams, and that's the industry you've been serving for many years, and you're doing again now with MySalesCoach. What do you feel are the attributes of like the most successful salespeople that you come across?
I think obviously some of this is going to be quite cliched, because it is quite cliched, but the number one thing is being coachable. So there are lots of people that I've had the experience both within organizations I've been at, and obviously as customers of Refract, or even more recently my sales coach, who didn't have the skills initially, didn't have necessarily the background, didn't have the experiences, but they were coachable. And you put together being coachable and then great coaching, and being coachable on its own isn't obviously enough. And I do kind of maintain that if you then add in that someone has the desire, the will, the why, has the curiosity, all of those skills, but has to be coachable, then you have every opportunity of making them successful, as long as obviously you have the right attributes to support them. And definitely some of the very best salespeople that I've worked with didn't have those skills and experiences to start off with, but they did have the coachability, did have the drive, did have the will, did have the why, did have the curiosity, and that appetite to learn and make themselves better, and that's what has definitely driven their success.
Amazing. There's been so much talk this year, particularly around AI, and Chat GPT and other platforms is right at the forefront now in terms of that question mark around the future of the SDR, the future of salespeople and sales. What's your view on how things are evolving just as a profession, and where you see things going?
So yeah, I think for everyone, we've seen AI in the last 6-9 months come at us so fast. It's obviously always been there, but the evolution in that time frame has been frankly quite scary and eye-opening, and undoubtedly it's going to completely change the role of SDRs, if particularly given the future evolution of AI as well. You already see that taking things like email outreach, or even LinkedIn outreach is definitely a lot harder than 12 months ago, and the same kind of messaging, the same kind of even having the right work ethic and some levels of personalization just don't have the same impact in inboxes that are becoming busier and busier, with more and more automated okay outreach. I think where we are today, it's still it is possibly the benefit you have is it is easier than ever to stand out of that crowd, because there is so much that is just it's okay, and I'm probably being kind saying okay, but we all have those inboxes full of those messages, but the role is changing, because it isn't like, here's a playbook, here's a template, let's add a little line of personalization, and you can use email and LinkedIn and those tools to great effect anymore. You can't. So the role is becoming one that is far more creative. For example, creativity is now being far more rewarded as an SDR. The channels that can't be as easily replicated on AI, we're huge advocates of cold calling, and I know obviously it splits opinion dramatically, and no doubt we'll look across anyone listening to this episode, but it's our number one channel, and it works, and that's not just at MySalesCoach, that's in previous businesses as well. So you look at channels like that, and even when people talk about AI being able to automate phone calls, and obviously we'll get to that stage, but legislation will hold that back. So that's an SDR will always have a competitive advantage over technology in actually having those conversations, and via phone, LinkedIn, and whatever else. But definitely we're seeing it becoming more creative. We're seeing those skills and needing to be able to stand above. I think the threat really is that a very average performing SDR who is reasonable at following a playbook is definitely at risk in the short term, let alone the long term.
Yeah, definitely. It's such an interesting time in this space in terms of how it's evolving. So I'm super curious how it plays out. We will see. You've taken a lot of risks. You've placed a lot of bets in your career. To do that, you must have had some deep beliefs that you could achieve what you're setting out to achieve. So I'm just curious of, like, where does your confidence come from to take these risks, perceived risks anyway, with what you choose to do?
Well, I'd first of all, say they are risks, right? Without doubt, they are risks. I can play out numerous versions of stories that would have had totally different outcomes and could have quite easily been the case. I mean, I think the kind of, it's a combination of hard work, timing, and luck is completely true. So first of all, those risks are real, and each of my stories has as many downs as ups, if not more. It is a roller coaster, and lots of opportunities for things not to work out favorably, and lots of near misses in fairness. And I wouldn't describe myself really as a confident person. Where I feel confident is when I feel like an expert. How do you feel like an expert? Well, first of all, I think that's putting in the hard yard. So, if we're talking about how do you take a SaaS business from 0 to 1 million, I can have confidence in that conversation because I feel like I have a level of expertise where I can have that confidence of both my own journeys and learnings. If you said to us that we're going to record a video here on how to change a tire on a car, I'm a rabbit in headlights. I've got absolutely no confidence because I'm got no expertise, and I know I'm going to be found out. So making yourself an expert, and that even comes down to each event. So if I'm coming into a meeting, or even a conversation like this, I need to feel prepared. I need to feel that I'm ready, that I've thought about it, that I've prepared for it, that I've researched it. If I'm going up on stage, I can have a level of confidence, or at least outer confidence, if I feel I'm well prepared.
Yeah.
But in truth, I'm not someone that would describe myself as a confident person. I'm definitely an extrovert introvert, and so I have to kind of build that confidence through preparation and making myself an expert the best that I can.
Which is great advice, for anyone that feels like they lack confidence. Even in the conversation I had with a previous guest, we're talking about developing that competence. You've got to understand what you're doing, and you can only develop that through practice. And I think you've also got to believe that with practice, your confidence will come. So you still have to put yourself out there when you're lacking confidence, don't you?
And confidence is seen as such a positive word, and obviously it is a positive word, and I appreciate it's in the name of your business, and for the good reasons, because it is such a positive word. But misplaced confidence, right? The confidence has to be backed up with competence.
Totally agree.
I'm a big advocate of the illusory superiority of the fact that 90% of us think we're above average drivers, and as examples, it's very easy for us to have overconfidence without necessarily having that competence. And that's not a good thing. So it is the combination, as you say, of competence and confidence that that is really the winning combination.
Definitely. On the journey that you've been on, has there been a particular hardship, period of time, or moment where things just got really difficult for you, and then you were able to navigate that and come out on the other side?
Yeah, definitely lots. I think I mentioned before, my very first business didn't work out. There's a story involving Manchester's mafia that is perhaps one for another time. And
I need to find that one out after this.
But some fairly horrific stories really, and learnings, but that didn't work out. And and as I mentioned in each of my journeys, there's definitely moments where it became very, very close, and could have easily been a very different scenario of not working out. And I think one of the criticisms I have of myself, which is really ironic now, is I've gone through big stage in my life and not had a coach, and those moments have been really, really lonely, really tough personally and mentally, and also not really having the support. I've got through those maybe more by luck than by design. So that's definitely a lesson learned. But there's definitely been some hardships and moments where it could have easily gone in very different directions.
And I mean it's just having that resiliency to kind of break through and navigate those challenges, which naturally happen to all of us. So thanks for being open about that. What just as we come into the final few questions of the conversation, how do you just look after yourself these days in terms of your well-being and making sure that it's sustainable, because then you're right in the beginning of another startup, which is often chaotic, intense. So how are you just maintaining your own well-being to navigate all this?
So again, without being honest and vulnerable, I would say there are areas where I do a good job of that, and there's areas where I do a terrible job of that. Probably mental well-being, I probably do a better job with making sure I have a couple of personal coaches that I can really open up to, and I can really be honest, and I know that I can then get both good advice and talk through things out loud. I couldn't do the journey. I wouldn't do the journey again without co-founders. I'm having had both of those experiences, I know that I wouldn't be investing in my own well-being in not having a co-founder personally. But again, as I say, being honest, there are areas where I'm a hypocrite, in terms of health and well-being. That's definitely not a strength for me, and I'd be a liar if I said it was. And it probably comes down to I say it probably comes down to I don't prioritize it enough. It's not whilst it might seem important, it wait till tomorrow, a little bit like sales coaching, you know, it kind of like, but also probably lacks from that coach in that area. I'm sure if I had a personal trainer at the gym, that would be a very different experience for me than, you know, the motivation to do it myself and kind of work it out myself. So, you know, there's definitely areas of hypocrisy in that answer as well.
Interesting. And I've, you know, we've all got areas in our life that we prioritize, you know, and work on than others. So I think it's, you know, it's an honest answer. What would be your, you know, final like parting comment or thoughts that if someone's hopefully got through this conversation that you would like to impart with the audience as a takeaway, inspiration, thought, whatever it might be?
So I think, you know, to make sure that you are prepared to make the investments in yourself. I don't necessarily mean financial investments, but the investments in your own personal development, in your own career plan, in your own path. You know, there are so many resources now to help you do that, but it takes an investment of time. It takes an investment of commitment, and possibly money. It does amaze me that people can be so flippant about going to university and ending up with £50,000 worth of debt to get a piece of paper, but actually once they get an opportunity in a career, that same level of, you know, of personal investment, whether that be time or money, becomes a very different equation. And there's kind of one that's almost like a recognized norm, and there's one that just feels like I can do without. But in terms of impact on life, in terms of impact on career trajectory, and in terms of impact on the learnings that give you the future that you want, that investment in self can only come from you, and waiting for your organization or for your manager to do that for you is never going to see you achieve your true potential.
That's a great takeaway. I mean, I completely agree. I find that, I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know if you've seen this, but there seems to be an expectation in the UK, at least, that you know, you wait for your employer to invest in you. I find the US market is much more different in this regard, that they understand that things aren't handed on a plate. I think it's almost, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's really struck me is like societal, like in the UK, you know, we get free healthcare, everything's paid for. And I feel like there's this expectation that at some point someone's going to give it to you, when you should really be grabbing it with both hands. Have you seen that?
100%. So, like, for example, I know a great sales trainer in the US who will not train people if their organization pays for them.
Wow.
They will only train you if you are paying for it yourself, because how can you be motivated if you're not prepared to invest in yourself? I can't even imagine that in the UK. I can't, like, as you say, the expectation that this isn't me, this is for my manager, my organization to solve, and waiting for someone to give it to you is just very different. And yet, as I say, the way that people think about their education is different to the way they think about their professional development.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. I mean, I've just put out a post this week, sense checking, an honesty sales person's poll on if people were on target year to date. And I think right now we've had almost 1,000 people answer that poll, and 55% are not on target. So, you know, 55%, over 500 people are not on target. And my question to them is, what are you doing, you know, to get back on target or put yourself in a position? And I do feel like that comes down to, what are you doing yourself, rather than sitting there, you know, complaining about the territory or, you know, the business is not right, the product market fit's not, all those long list of things that you can complain about. Like, how are you taking responsibility and actually investing in yourself?
Exactly. I think, you know, that is, unfortunately, for and I'm going to be quite maybe derogatory here, for your average salesperson, that their go-to will be, it's territory. I'm not getting enough leads. The leads aren't good enough quality. Our competitors are discounting all the time. The market's really tough, etc., etc., etc. And those will be the answers, rather than like, here is what I am doing personally to better myself, and that distinguishes your top performers from your average performers.
Totally
that they
agree.
think about that in two different ways.
Totally agree. Wow, there's a whole conversation around that. This has been absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, Kevin. Really excited what you're doing, and I look forward to staying close on this particular journey. So thanks for being on board.
Likewise, thanks for having me, James.
Cheers, Kevin.